Hi, and welcome to Alex's ESL World. I'm Alex, and I'm here to help you with your English. I haven't made a video in a while because I didn't get very many viewers, and also I didn't know what people might need. I recently received a request from a viewer to cover nominal relative clauses, especially those using WH interrogative clauses. So this is my response. Thank you for watching and commenting and requesting a particular grammar need. Before I get started, let me refer you to the videos I already made about relative clauses. There's a lot of information there. I hope I don't repeat anything that I already said in those, but I might. They are related. The next thing I want to point out before I get started with this lesson is the use of the term nominal clauses. When I was asked to address this, I said I'd do some research and put together a lesson. I hate to admit it, but I didn't know what a nominal clause was. Excuse me. I looked it up and it's the same as a noun clause. I know noun clauses. I suspect that some countries use nominal, but in the US, where I live, we call them noun clauses. Since I was asked about nominal clauses, I'll use that in this video. Okay, let's get started. Nominal relative clauses in English. I'm going to give this to you in rules like I normally do. So rule number 1 is, in nominal relative clauses, the relative pronoun acts like a noun plus a relative pronoun together. For example, I need a bed, and IKEA, that's how we pronounce it in the United States. IKEA had exactly what I was looking for. Here, the clause is what I was looking for, which means the exact bed that I was looking for. Rule number 2, we do not use another noun, pronoun, or relative pronoun with a nominal relative pronoun. For example, a cheap, stylish bed was what I was looking for. We don't use something like the thing what I was looking for. Just stick with the one relative pronoun, and that's all. Rule number 3. What is the most common nominal relative pronoun? But we can also use whatever, whoever, whichever, or wherever. Let's look at some examples. First, I read whatever is available. Romantic stories are all the same, whoever the author is. Well, we know that's not true. Next one, take whichever book you like. I don't mind. And I read all the time, wherever I am. Now let's look at those WH interrogatives. We'll start with when.
Do you remember when you first saw a Shakespeare play? The relative clause is when you first saw a Shakespeare play. Notice that the relative clause here is a dependent clause. You can't just say when you first saw a Shakespeare play and expect people to understand what you're asking them. It does have a subject and a verb, but all clauses have a subject and a verb. It's when you add a relative pronoun at the beginning of the clause that you make the clause a dependent clause. Relative clauses are always dependent clauses. Let's look at some more. Next we have where. Is this where they put the classic novel, The Good Earth? Next we have who. Do you know who you're going to meet at the party? Next, how. It's interesting to see how people display their books. And finally, why. Can you explain why you like e-readers? Before I get back to the rules, let's have a look at some of the examples of WH interrogative relative clauses to see if we can see a pattern. That will help you to be able to put this kind of question together for your own needs. And isn't that what's important about learning a language? If you don't know how to use something in the grammar, you won't be able to use it when you need it. Okay, let's look at those examples and explore the whole sentences. The first one is, do you remember when you first saw a Shakespeare play? As I mentioned before, the relative clause is when you first saw a Shakespeare play. But what about the rest of the sentence? The sentence starts out with, do you remember? That, I'm sure you can tell, is an independent clause. You can use that all by itself. For example, I might say something like, "We had so much fun at the beach last year. Do you remember?" See, that "do you remember" makes sense, and it's all one sentence by itself. Let's look at the next one. Is this where they put the classic novel The Good Earth? In this sentence, the relative clause is where they put the classic novel The Good Earth. Now take a moment to think about this. I've told you that the relative clauses are dependent clauses, and this one's no exception. But you have to look closely at this one. I've seen English learners make the mistake of thinking this clause is an independent clause, but it's not. Where they put the classic novel The Good Earth is not an independent clause. It can easily be transformed into an independent clause by adding one little word, which is either did or do. So you could say, where did or where do they put the classic novel The Good Earth? That's an independent clause and a sentence all by itself. It makes sense. The rest of the sentence is this? You might be saying, hey, wait a minute. Is this can't be an independent clause? I had the same thought at first, but think about it. This is a question of the type we invert the subject and verb, right? So if we change the word order away from being a question to being a sentence, it would be this is. And that, my friends, is an independent clause, which is a sentence all by itself. This is the subject. This is the subject, and is the verb. I admit there's not a whole lot of information in that sentence, but it technically is a complete sentence, whether it's an indicative sentence or an interrogative sentence, a question. Let's continue. Do you know who you're going to meet at the party? In this sentence, who you're going to meet at the party is the relative clause, and do you know is the independent clause. It's interesting to see how people display their books. The dependent relative clause is how people display their books. The independent clause is, it's interesting to see. This one, of course, is not a question like the others, but it could be if you say, is it interesting to see? You just change the places of the verb and the subject. The last one is, can you explain why you like e-readers? Here, the relative clause is why you like e-readers. Like before, this is almost an independent clause. You just have to add did or do, like, why do or did you like e-readers? Since we don't have a form of do in this sentence, the relative clause is dependent, and the beginning of the sentence, the independent clause, is, can you explain? I hope that clears some things up. If it doesn't, leave a comment and I'll see if I can find a better way to make it clear for you. Let's get back to the rules. I still have plenty of those. Rule number 4.
Nominal relative pronouns what, when, where, who, and how can be followed by an infinitive. You may remember that an infinitive is the verb form to plus the base form of a verb. Some examples are, we couldn't work out how to assemble the bookcase. How is our relative pronoun, and to assemble is the infinitive form of the verb assemble. I don't know where to find the books I wanted. Here, where is our relative pronoun, and to find is our infinitive. It's the infinitive form of find. See how this works? Next, I was so confused, but I didn't know what to do. This is such a typical expression. I don't know what to do, or I didn't know what to do. We've all had times when we felt like that. Next one. I don't know who to give this book to. And finally, Mary doesn't know when to stop talking. I think we've all probably know someone like that. Rule number 5. The nominal relative pronoun what can be followed by a noun. For example, what enjoyment we had came from books. You see, as you can see, Enjoyment follows what an enjoyment is, as I'm sure you all know, a noun. So in this sentence, what means all of the enjoyment, but it suggests there wasn't very much enjoyment. I hope that's not confusing. If it is, stop and think about it for a moment. Let it sink in. If that doesn't do it, send me a question. Also, notice the intonation pattern when I say it. I'll say it again. What enjoyment we had came from books. Does that help? I hope so. Let's have a look at the next rule, which is the last rule, number 6. We can use which to refer to a whole clause, not just the preceding noun. It's when you're adding information to your original thought. Take a look at my example. He went to see a speech and language therapist, which was a major breakthrough. This is another one that's very common. It helps us to explain things more clearly, which is why I'm using this example right now. Did you notice I used it? You really could say he went to see a speech and language therapist, but by adding which was a major breakthrough, you get a better feel for what kind of person he is. Okay, that's all I have for today. If you still have questions or you need some other grammar point explained, let me know and I'll do my best to help you out. These are difficult times for all of us. Please take care of yourselves and follow the recommendations of the experts so you can stay healthy. Remember to be kind to each other and be patient. Take care. Bye-bye.